there, listeners. Welcome to the Hi-Fi Weekly Training Podcast. My name is Jeremy, and I'm glad to be with you all today. Here with me in the sort of metaphorical studio, in the the virtual studio, we'll call it the virtual studio, is Crystal Mazuka and Rachel Raquel May. Welcome, ladies.
Hey, Jeremy, good to see you.
Yeah, great to be here.
So we are now in the second week of our August 2025 month. The content here we are talking about that I am designed for a purpose, for kids, and we're talking about God has a plan for me for preschool, and we are doing something that we think is really special with the content this month, where we're walking through the life of Joseph, and we hope that each session continues to stand on its own, but also those who are there week to week can kind of see how the story builds a little bit and how God is using the life of Joseph to share with us that he has a plan for us, even when we can't see it. And so, as we get into that, we want to start with a question. As you know, if you're a frequent listener to the podcast, we like to start with a question. And so the story today is a little bit, or for this week, is a little bit, maybe a little bit of a challenge. It's not really a happy, positive story so much. And so that kind of brings to this idea of, um, being scared or being on the lookout. That's kind of our main idea. Is I can look out, I can be on the lookout for things and see what God's doing. That kind of makes me start thinking a little bit about being scared, or something that puts me on really high alert. And so
Mm.
so ladies, I want to ask you that, is there something maybe in nature or just in your normal environment as you go, that would that's again, I hate to use the word scare, 'cause maybe that's not the right word, but it's somewhere that you're on high alert. You're looking out because you know that there could be something that is gonna, again, maybe it scares you, maybe it's kind of catches you off guard, and you just know that you need to be ready for whatever that thing is. There something?
So I live in Washington State, and specifically Western Washington, which is known for hiking and mountains and forests. Like, it's such a natural place. And I'm not a big nature person. I'd always rather stay inside and read a book or watch a movie. But when I go out, I am not scared of snakes. I think that they're cute. I think that they're fine. I am not scared of spiders. I'm fine. I'm fine. Jeremy, what gets me are birds. I am
Oh,
terrified
birds.
of birds. I am absolutely terrified of birds. I
Oh,
If they're walking, actually, I'm fine with it. I don't want a bird to fly by me. They are so, I don't know, there's just something about them. So when I am out in nature, I am always looking out for birds.
mhm.
I feel like they're going to fly at my head, they're going to peck my eyes, or they're going to poop on me or something. I am just really scared of birds. And so I don't like going places where there's lots of birds, and I'm always on high alert for birds. So that is my big one. Second to that is frogs. I also don't like frogs.
Yeah. So here I got a quick a bird story for you. I'm not generally on high alert for birds, but right after we moved into the house that we're in about 6 or 7 years ago, we had these three trees along the back of our the little backyard, and I was mowing the yard, and I knew there was a bird nest in there, but I didn't really pay any attention to it. And I'm mowing, and this bird starts dive bombing me. My wife is on the deck behind us. She's laughing her head off. But all I could see was this shadow, and I knew it was coming. It never got me, so I'm not usually on high alert. But if there's like a nest around or something like that, I've learned I have to be on high alert out in my yard, because the birds are very protective of their young, as well they should be. All right, Rachel, let's see. Sorry, Rachel, do you have something?
Yeah, so for me, it's snakes. I am terrified of snakes. Whenever we're out hiking or in our yard or anything, I am on high alert for snakes. We were in Arizona last weekend, and my son said, "Look, there's a giant hole in the backyard, and there's a snake skin coming out of it." I was done. Like, I would
Ooh,
not go in the backyard again.
mm-mm,
I
mm-mm.
like nothing could get me back out there. I was
No,
like, I'm an indoor person now. I will not be outside.
for real, for real. Yeah, I can relate to that. I wouldn't say that I quite that level, but again, if I'm in the backyard, we have this lizard. It's about I don't know, 8 or 9 inches that lives in our backyard, and it moves a little bit like a snake, makes me think
Mm.
of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. And like, if I see it moving, I will shut the lawnmower off and run in the house. Like, it just absolutely startles me. Now, again, not generally, doesn't bother me. Now, I don't want to. I don't want to give the wrong picture here. I'm not going to look for snakes. Like, I don't want to be with them for sure. So I can relate to that. Mine would be uh, probably spiders. Probably
Mm.
spiders is mine. I just don't do spiders. I use this term fairly loosely, but I had a kind of traumatic experience with spiders when I was in college. I was working at this movie theater, and um, we had to clean out this storage thing, and me and the guys working with opened this door, and I mean thousands of
Ooh.
spiders were
Ooh.
in this thing, and it
Ugh.
was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, nope. Closed the door, walked away. I was like, I quit. I'm done. Uh, so I didn't actually quit the job, not then, but yeah. So now, if I see a spider, like I have that moment of just got a little PTSD. I got
Mm.
jolted a little bit. Like,
Mm.
okay, no, 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 no. We got to be careful. I have another spider story, but I won't tell you that now because we need to keep moving. So, uh, and I'll probably curl up in a ball in the fetal position or something. So, let's so I already mentioned we're talking about Joseph, and
Hmm.
in this kind of walking through Genesis, the life of Joseph, and one of our theme verse this month is we are God's workmanship, we're His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared ahead of time for us to do. And so that's sort of our connection to the plan that God prepared some good works ahead of time for us to do, and so that's sort of that's our theme connection, or our monthly truth connection to God has a plan for me that I am designed for a purpose. And as we shift this and we start thinking about, all right, what is what about Joseph's story is it that's going to then help us see that God has a plan for us, that God's
Hmm.
with us? So, Crystal, talk us through that real quick. What is I already mentioned this story of Joseph in prison can be a little bit of a downer, can be a
Hmm.
little hard, can be a little bit discouraging. Talk us through that. How can we see the goodness of God in the story of Joseph in prison?
Yeah, I think a lot of this story is going to be so important for preschoolers and kids to learn, because it's something that we as adults also need to learn. And it's this:
Yeah.
doing the right thing, doing the good thing, following God does not guarantee that life is going to be easy. It does not guarantee that we're always going to know what's happening, that things are always going to go our way. And that's a hard thing for us to learn because we that's what we want it to be, right? Like we want it to
Right.
be that if I am faithfully devoted to following God, then my life is just going to be awesome and amazing and wonderful. And Joseph is the perfect picture of that is not true. So last week we had this moment where God gives Joseph these incredible dreams, where he sees this plan that God has for his life, and then it seems to take a really sharp U-turn right away when his brothers sell him
Mm,
into slavery. And so this week we get to dive into what happens next. So now Joseph, he is living in Egypt, and he is risen up to a place of prominence in this house where he was sold into slavery. So it seems like maybe things are going better for him. But then this incident happens with Potiphar's wife. And I do want to pause for a minute and let our listeners know that we don't go into detail about what she does. We just essentially say that she tells a lie about him. We think that that's sufficient for preschoolers and kids to know. They don't need to know what the lie was, they don't need to know the things that led up to it. But she tells a lie about Joseph, and he's not believed. And so he is then thrown into prison. And that can seem really discouraging. Like, but Joseph still didn't do anything wrong. It seemed like things were going good for him, and now they are bad again.
hmm
But I think what is great about this, and our main idea is I can look out, is for preschoolers and kids to know that no matter what is happening in our lives, we can look out and we can see that God is always working around us. And we can also look out and see things that might happen that would try and discourage us and try and pull us away from what God is doing. And so, regardless of if things are going really good or not so good, if we're feeling really happy or feeling really disappointed and discouraged, we can know that we can look out and trust God. Trust that He is with us. Trust that nothing gets in the way of His plan. That even when the timeline isn't going how we would want, even when the situations aren't what we would want, we can look out and we can trust God and continue to follow Him, knowing that He is in control, knowing that everything that He says is true, knowing that He never leaves us. And so that is the encouragement, the inspiration that we can take when we are in situations where we might otherwise become discouraged, where we might look around and say, no, 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 this is terrible, this is awful, no, 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 God isn't with me, no, no, no. We can look out and know He is always, always, always at work. And we can look out and say, there are things that are going to happen that will try and discourage me and distract me, but I don't need to be looking at those things. I can keep my eyes fixed on God.
Such an important truth for us to remember that when we're talking about being designed for a purpose, or we talk about God has a plan for me, we know that all of that anchors in the goodness of God. That
Mm-hmm.
yes, circumstances around us can be challenging, and like you said, we want that if then. We want if we do the good things, then we'll have a good life. We want that, but that's just not the biblical story. That's not
Mm-hmm.
our story, and so such an important truth. Thanks, Christopher, for walking us through that. Now, Rachel, I want to shift to you because in this story we can see that there may be some disappointment that happens, and even as we read it, we kind of feel this a little bit. We feel like Crystal was describing, something good happened, and then man, we had took a hard turn, and now we're in something. There's disappointment and pain, and um, no doubt the leaders and the kids and the families that we are serving are going to be walking through some level of disappointment or pain in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, how can we help use this story and this main idea that we're really locking onto? I can look out. How can we use this to help the kids that we serve, the preschoolers we serve, the families we serve, the leaders that we serve?
Yeah, because I think we can all look in our lives and none of us are untouched by disappointment and pain. And when we feel that disappointment, when we're in the midst of pain or trouble or times that are hard, we have to remind ourselves and train our brains to look out and see that God is working and that He does
Mm-hmm.
have a plan. And I think
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, reminding families, preschoolers, each other, whenever we're going through hard times, to remember that God is here, He is active, and He is good, even
Mm.
when things seem so painful or disappointing,
Mm-hmm.
because He has a plan and a purpose for each one of us. And disappointment and pain don't derail His purpose or His plan. Sometimes they get us where we need to go in these different
Mm-hmm.
situations that shape us, inform us, and draw us closer to Him to become the people that He wants to shape us into. And so I think reminding them that whatever you're facing, God is there and He has a plan and He knows what you're going through and He cares. And
Mm-hmm.
some kids and leaders and parents in our ministries may not have experienced a lot of disappointment or pain yet. But honestly, it's just yet because it's a part of life and it comes and it happens. And so just reminding them that you may be in a moment where you think, wow, no, everything is going right. But that's not always going to be the static thing in our lives. Disappointment and pain
Mm-hmm.
come. And when they
Mm-hmm.
do, we know that God is good and He can be trusted. And that sometimes, whenever we think something is good or we think that an outcome is what we need, sometimes we're mistaken. And that outcome and that thing that we think is the right thing isn't the right thing. And we can
Mm-hmm.
trust that God
Yeah.
is going to lead us to what is right and what is good and what will shape us and mold us to be more like Christ.
So helpful, so helpful. The analogy that I think of, and this may not be super helpful for preschoolers, although maybe there's a level of it, but um, particularly for elementary, specifically even older elementary, some of them are maybe starting to think about getting in shape and working out. They're part of sports and things, and so one of the things that I've tried to help my own kids, who several of them are athletes, is to say. We would all like to think that we would get super strong and super healthy just sitting on the couch watching TV. But that's just not how that's like the life is good, whatever that life
Mm-hmm.
is good definition would be for you. And we just don't get stronger that way. We don't like our bodies don't build and get strengthened by doing nothing or just in those good times. We have to put our bodies and our muscles and things under stress to help make them stronger. And so God's using this. And again, this may not be super for helpful for preschoolers, although maybe help them understand that they had to crawl before they could walk, and they have to walk before they can run. And there are
Mm,
those steps where we do grow, and maybe we feel some struggle and some things in that. And so again, particularly if you and I kind of think preteen oftentimes because that's who I am teaching right now at my church. And so if that might be a metaphor that will help you in some of your context, just remind kids that we get stronger
mm-hmm,
biologically, like physically. We get stronger when we put our bodies through some times of stress,
mm-hmm.
working out and weights and running and all that stuff. And spiritually, there's some truth to that as well. God uses those times, the way you said so well, Rachel. God uses those times in our life of disappointment, sadness, and struggle to make us spiritually stronger, and to build those spiritual muscles. And so we can use this story to help frame that for our, again, our kids, our preschoolers, our leaders who are
Mm-hmm.
going through things. Now, this week, for some of us, now I live in the Nashville area, and so by this point in the month of August, kids are already started back at school. We homeschool most of our kids, and they have been doing school for a couple of weeks already. Maybe in different parts of the country, you've not started school yet. But as we think about this idea of looking out, we want to take just a moment, whether your kids have already started school or whether they are looking forward to start in a few weeks. Um, when we are sending our kids into whatever their school system is, whether it's public school or private school or homeschool or whatever that is, um, that's another place where they can be on the lookout for what God's
Mm-hmm.
doing. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I want to come back to you. What are some ways that we can use this Bible story for preschoolers and kids and help them, if they're feeling nervous or they're feeling anxious about what's in front of them? How can we
Mm-hmm.
use this story to help encourage them as they're starting maybe a new chapter of their life
Yeah.
in their school?
It's so funny how this time of year is such a restart for a
Hmm.
lot of us, like when the school year starts. And I think that there is a lot of anxiety because there's so much unknown. Sometimes preschoolers and kids are put in a class with a teacher that they did not want, or
Yeah.
their friend that they had that they thought was their best friend suddenly isn't acting like their best friend anymore. Or they're finding out that they're having to study a subject that they find very challenging and they find very difficult. And this can bring about those feelings of just anxiety and even questioning of like, why does it have to be this way? And so I think that this story is really, really timely in that we, no matter what, we can look out and we can see and know that God is working in our lives. Rachel, I loved what you said about this idea of sometimes these hard things are bringing us to a place that God has as part of his plan.
Yeah.
Which, of course, spoiler alert, that's what's going to happen in Joseph's life. We're going to see it's very strategic why he is where he is. And so, just really using that as an opportunity to not dismiss those anxious and nervous feelings, to say, you know what, that is a really hard thing. I know that that is really, really hard. So let's pray and ask God to help you see what He is doing, to see how He is working in you and through you, to see opportunities where you can grow closer to Him, where you can share Him with others and things like that. And so, really, just helping them have that perspective of, yes, this is hard, and we can be on the lookout to see what God is doing in the midst of this thing.
So helpful, so helpful. Crystal, Rachel, thank you for being on our episode today. Listeners, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing in your ministry. Many of you not only are starting new school years, but you're starting a new church year. Some of you have just done Promotion Sunday or something like that, where kids are moving up grades. And so we know that we're praying for you during this season. This is one of those busier times. I think all of our ministry seasons are busy, but this is one of those busier times as a lot is happening. A lot of moving parts are happening in your ministry. So I know that we're praying for you. Thank you for the work you do week in and week out for the kids, the families in your church and your community. Hey, again, listeners, thanks for listening. We'll catch you again next time on our Hi-Fi Weekly Training Podcast.